Hello and welcome to a new topic, dialect. It's a complex concept, not an easy concept. To linguists, a dialect is the collection of attributes, collection of qualities, collection of characteristics, collection of elements and components. And what are those components and attributes? Phonetics, phonological, syntactic, morphological, and semantic. That make one group of speakers noticeably different from another group of speakers of the same language. So according to linguists, or from the point of view of linguists, a dialect is a difference in the pattern of the use of phonological, syntactic, and morphological. A difference in the way people use sound of the language, people use the sentence pattern of the language, that is syntactic, people use the way the formation of words and the meaning. We continue. Dialect. A dialect is a variety related to user, related to a speaker, related to the person who uses the language. It involves differences in pronunciation, vocabulary, and grammar. So the difference in dialect could be noticeable in any one of these, like those of pronunciation, vocabulary, and grammar. We continue our discussion. Dialect. A dialect is regarded as, thus we can say, a geographical variety of a language spoken in a certain area, being different in some linguistic items from other geographical varieties of the same language. We continue our discussion. Dialect, and let's understand dialects through examples. We have a sentence, John is a farmer. It is an example of a standard language because it is grammatically correct and easily understandable. But if I speak the same sentence in a different way, in a different manner, in a different style, John is a farmer. You see the word farmer and farmer like it is considered as a dialect which is noticed in the difference of accent. That is why we say the difference is one of accent. We have another example. You should not do that. It's a complete grammatical sentence, quite comprehensible. There is no problem. Normally learners or users of English language, they speak this sentence. Therefore, it is an example of a standard language. But the same we can say in a dialect pattern, in a dialectical way. You ought to do that. Means sometimes even you can't understand what the person is saying. But what we notice is that the difference is theory of accent, grammar, and vocabulary. In this sentence, we have some problem in understanding the sound, that is to say accent. The grammatical pattern of this sentence is also not very correct, and the use of words, that is to say vocabulary, is also not very comprehensible. So what we come to understand is that some dialects are extremely different. They are difficult to understand. They are very complex. Sometimes even you can't understand, while other dialects are less so. Other dialects are easy to understand. And this has been claimed by Donald G. Ellis from Language to Communication, Routledge, 1999. So these are some of the fundamental concepts revolving around dialect. True or false questions. Dialect is a standard variety of language. Is it true or false? Please think yourself and come to the right judgment. In my opinion, and as the fact states, it's false. We have the second sentence. Dialect makes one speaker noticeably different from another speaker. Yes, this seems to be correct. So the answer is true. We have another question. Dialect involves difference in pronunciation only. No, this statement is false. In dialect, we don't have the difference of pronunciation only. We also have the noticeable difference in grammar and the use of vocabulary. We continue. All dialects are easy to understand. Again, this statement is false because all dialects are not easy to understand. Some of the dialects very difficult to understand, incomprehensible, as we just talked about through the examples. We have another question. John is a farmer is an example of dialect. Of course not, false. It is an example of a standard language because this statement is quite clear, understandable, and with no complication, easy to explain, easy to understand. People use this pattern all over the world. But if you say dialectical way, then there might be some change accent pattern of this sentence. What is dialectology? But before we discuss what does it mean, let's first discuss about what is dialect. In common usage, a dialect is a substandard, low status often a rustic form of language, often a language being spoken in the countryside, not very popular, not very famous, not very up to the level, up to the mark. We have some more ideas about dialect. It is generally associated with the peasantry, the working class, or other groups lacking in prestige, lacking in respect, lacking in esteem. We have some more ideas about a dialect is a form of language spoken in more isolated parts of the world, having no written form. So these are some of the basic ideas about what is dialect. Now let's talk about what is dialectology. It is the study of dialect or dialects. Could be the study of one dialect or could be the study of many dialects. In other words, we can say the systematic study of language variation is known as dialectology. Further, we can add the study of the language of an area or group of people is known as dialectology. We continue our discussion about what is dialectology. Dialectology is basically about the study of variant features within a language. Variant features within a language means various features, various characteristics which work within a language. And what are those characteristics? What are those features? It could be their history, differences of form, characteristic features, principles of development, meaning, and their relationships. We continue our discussion about what is dialectology. The discipline, that is to say, dialectology is the discipline which recognizes all variations within the bounds of any given language. We have some more ideas about. In fact, dialectology, it classifies and interprets all variations of any given dialect according to historical origins. So let's talk about true or false questions to check our comprehension about dialect and dialectology. The first question is, a dialect is a polished form of language. Is it true or false? Please think and then write the correct answer. Choose the correct answer. And it's false. Dialect can never be a polished form of language. We have another question. A dialect has a standard written form. Is it true or false? Guess yourself and come to the right answer. That is false. A dialect, in fact, has no written form. We continue. Dialectology is the study of dialects. What do you think? Is it true or false? Of course, it's true. The fourth question is, dialectology is the systematic study of language variation. What's your opinion? Of course, it's true. And the last question is, dialectology is not the study of the language of an area. It's false. It is the study of the language of an area spoken by certain people living in a certain place. Bidialectical and bidialectalism. Let's discuss each one of them. The word bidialectical is divided into two parts. The first part is bi and the second one is dialectical. These letters bi, it refers to twice or two, and dialectical, it is further divided into two parts. The first part is dialect, it's noun, and then we add suffix al and then it becomes dialectical as adjective. We continue our discussion about bidialectical. So what we come to the point is that it means literally two different dialects. In other words, we can express that a person who is bidialectical speaks two different dialects but of the same language, not two different languages. That will be another concept, bidialectical. That's okay. Move on to the next about this concept, bidialectical. In another way, we can also try to understand this concept. How can we understand? How can we know a person can speak two different dialects? A person may speak his own regional dialect and at the same time he may also speak a standard language. For example, suppose if you live in London, you are most likely to speak the standard language. But you are a native of Scotland where you had a different dialect of English language. So in that case, what you can do is that you already speak your original dialect. At the same time, when you move around, especially in big cities, and come into contact with educated class of people, then you use your standard language. So in that way, you can speak two different dialects. I give you another example. Suppose a person who speaks Arabic language and he belongs to the countryside. So he has a different dialect. While when he moves on to the city, in the big cities like that of Dubai and Tripoli and Riyadh, and he talks to the educated class of people, So he's most likely to use the standard language of the Arabic form. So in that way, a person may speak his own regional dialect as well as standard language. So in this way, we can say a person who is bidialectical can speak two different dialects. We have some more ideas about this concept. Bidialectalism. This is noun, and the art of using two dialects of the same language is known as bidialectalism. The story is the same, but just the grammatical category of the word changes from adjective to noun. We have some more ideas. So what we come to the point is that we can teach standard English to pupils who normally use a non-standard dialect. There are some people, they are born in the village, in the countryside, and they are very efficient in speaking their own regional dialects. But on account of the necessity of jobs, they have to get admitted to schools and the colleges and the universities where they are most likely to learn the standard language. So from this point of view, we can say helping lower class students, helping backward class students, helping those who come from the countryside speak both their native dialect and standard English and standard language, what we call, in other words, a standard dialect. So we have some more ideas about this process is known as bidialectalism. The process of using two dialects, the process of speaking two dialects can be known as bidialectalism. Hope you understand the concept. Thank you and goodbye.